Welcome to DFHowTo. In this episode, we'll discuss the site selection screen for new Embark. Let's get to it. This will be a two-part how-to. The first one will be on the screen components and commands generically. The second one will be on the particulars of biome values. If you've embarked before and know the basics here already, skip to the biome tutorial. At this point, I'll assume you've generated a new world to play in or are going to reuse a world that you've abandoned a previous fort in. Select Start Playing, then choose the region you want to play in. If you've only just generated a single world, you'll only have one option here. Now select Dwarf Fortress. A loading screen will come up, and then it will advance the calendar by half a month. From here, you'll get to the site selection screen. The site selection screen has four major components and a controls list at the bottom. The left side is your local map. This will be used to select your specific area to build your fortress in. By using UMKH here, you'll be able to move it around. Shift UMKH here will enlarge or shrink the area that you can build in. You don't want larger than a 3x3 if you're just starting off. Larger areas take up more memory and can die to slow down much easier than smaller areas. The center area is your region map. You can traverse this map with your arrow keys. You'll notice the local map changes depending on which square you are in on the region map. Shift arrow key will move you 10 squares at a time. The rightmost map is your world map. I used a small map in this example, so the world map is compressed. It is mostly there to give you a general overview of the world's terrain. The X on this map will move around as you move around on the region map. You have no direct control of this map. It's merely for reference. If you scroll your mouse wheel in the default settings, you'll be able to zoom the size of these windows smaller and larger. I'll do my best to avoid doing that for these videos so that you have a consistent view of the screen. If you do it accidentally, the easiest way to get it back to the original values is to go the other way until the text on the right stops looking a little odd. The final component is the information window on the right. By default, it will show you the information about the first biome in your site selection area in the local map. In this example, my first biome is in the region the Fenced Hills, and I can see other details about it. To see the other biomes, F1, F2, and F3 can be used to highlight where the biomes overlap my current selection. The Fenced Hills cover this region, and there is a horizontal stripe through my selected area. The Fenced Hills also cover the northern area of my selection, which I can see with F2. But instead of being a shrubland like the F1 biome, this is savanna. Finally, in F3, I can see that I'm also overlapping a small piece of the scarce tundras of creation, a tundra area with freezing temperatures. Using Tab, I can control which screen is up on the information window on the right. The first tab shows me my neighbors in a particular region. For example, building on these mountains here would only have dwarves as my neighbors. A quiet little region for sure. One square over on the region map, however, and I have dwarves, goblins, humans, and elves for neighbors. This simply means that they can reach me at some point. The red line next to the goblins means they're hostile to our current civilization. Another option would for them to be at war. The next tab choice will show you your selection of civilizations to join if you get the option. In this case, I have two civilizations that I can join: the Hammer of Roses and the Earthen Swords. The civilization I choose will decide later what items may or may not be available to my groups of dwarves when they embark on this grand adventure. By moving up to the other side of the map, I can still join either of the existing civilizations. They aren't bound by distance. You can switch between the civilizations with the plus and minus keys. When you do, you will see on the map the civilization markers will move around, showing their home areas. The next tab choice shows relative elevations in the local map. Building on cliffs can be fun. In this case, you can see the local map shows there's a large lowland through the middle and some very steep mountains going up on the right edge. Tabbing again shows us the cliff indicator, which is a relative change map. Near the zeros in the center, we can see there's a massive climbing in the general lay of the land, which flattens out in a very high zone on the right. One more tab brings us back to the biome choices, and we can see there's a river running right through a huge mountain area. Well, that explains that. One thing I'd like to note is when the local map looks like this, that means there's an existing civilization site in your way. You can tell with my site selector down in the bottom right that I'm covering the area, and down at the bottom, Embark is grayed out. This means I can't build there. As soon as I move off the built-up area, the red name on the right disappears, and the Embark choice becomes available. Continuing on the controls, at the bottom you'll see the S key available, which is a list of items. This is from DHack and lets you adjust a few things. Embark anywhere is what it says. You can build your fort anywhere, come heck or high water. If I turn that on and then try to embark on Bissell Catton here, Embark is available. Not wise, but it's available. I'll discuss some really strange and fun ways to abuse Embark Anywhere somewhere later in the series, but if you're new, don't use it. Mouse control is what it says, but it's not as useful as you'd think at first glance. I'm very used to playing without a mouse and typically leave it off. Your choice. Sand indicator shows sand as an option in the biome list on the right when there's sand available at a site. It normally isn't listed. Stable position means that your site selector in the local map doesn't wander around based on when you move your region cursor. As you saw before, my site stuck to the bottom right corner. With it off, you'll see it bounces around the local map a bit, looking for locations. Notes you won't worry about yet unless you plan on making notes about reclaimable fortresses or interesting sites in the world to try after you retire your current fort you'll be working on. And reclaim unretire is used to take back a fortress you left before, either with a new set of 7 dwarves or reclaiming the old fort. The final command available to you on this screen is Find Desired Location, which we'll discuss in more detail when we go over biome details in the next episode. We'll see you there.